Kate Belew. Welcome to the Witch Wave.
Hi, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming in. It's so nice to see you. I know our paths have crossed in person a few times, but we haven't had a chance to really sit down and chat other than your podcast, which I was just on.
It was so much fun.
So it is such a treat to be here with you in person. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So we are here to celebrate and dive into your new book, which is Word Witch: How to Call Upon and Cultivate the Creative Magic Within You.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, this is a topic that is very close to my heart. You and I are both witches who make things. And you in particular are a writer, you're a poet, and you're also a witch, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about how you realized you were a word witch yourself.
Like that first moment.
Yeah. What is your word witch origin story?
Well, I've always been a poet. And so the first poems that I remember writing were dictated to my mom, and she would write them down for me. And they were about magical things. They were about fairies and unicorns and nature. And those were just like the first kind of topics that I fell in love with.
Yes.
And like the path is wild and windy, but like those loves, I think, just were kind of like woven through. And in my young 20s, when I moved to New York, now almost 10 years ago, it was sort of this realization that like that writing that I had been doing, my love of like the plants, my love of magic and ritual were kind of one and the same. And so that's when I was like, I think that what I'm doing is word witching. I'm a word witch, like poetry, writing. It's how I make sense of the world and of magic. And that's how I connect to that source, that divine thing, that mystery. And so meeting that space on the page is kind of what felt the most natural to me. And I think it was through Frances F. Denny's book and talking with her where I kind of had that realization in Major Arcana. I was like, I'm a word witch, and I'm claiming that for myself.
And for listeners and viewers, Frances F. Denny is an incredible photographer. She's been on the Witch Wave. She's a dear friend, and she's taken a lot of my photographs. But she also did this incredible series called Major Arcana, and it was really kind of a, would you call it an anthropological visual study of modern witches? And so I sat for her, you sat for her, and many other witches in our community got to not only have our portraits taken by her, but also talk to her about how we engage with that identity as witch.
So powerful.
Yes. And so tell me more about talking to her and why that unlocked that phrase for you, word witch.
Yeah, we were sitting in an apothecary having tea.
As one does.
Yes, it was the best. And I was just like, this is what I have dreamed of for my life, basically. And it was just something like, there was something so catalytic about talking through with someone that, you know, believed in similar magic to me or was trying to kind of like coax those threads out that like helped me come to see that aspect of my identity that maybe I had kept a little more hidden or to myself or private because I was really trying to protect that thing. But I felt so seen and honored by her in that way. And I was able to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And like working in that space, it's like where I first saw your work and Robin Rose Bennett's work. I was like, okay, to be a witch, to be a creative, to be an artist, like New York is able to hold this identity for me, and I'm able to kind of meet myself there in that dream.
Yes. Oh, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah, I still am deeply in love with New York City. I moved here actually in 1999 because I went to NYU.
Amazing.
So I've been here most of my life. I've been here my entire adult life, and I have not fallen out of love with it. I've definitely had ups and downs,
Sure.
but I love it here still. How do you feel about being a witch in New York? You talked a little bit about it helping you hold these different identities, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I love it so much. I mean, I recently, my mom is selling our childhood home. And so I had to go back and I was kind of unearthing all of these artifacts from like my teenage self.
Where's the home?
In Michigan, in Marshall, Michigan. And so I found this letter when I was 15 that I wrote. And it was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to move to New York City. And I'm going to have a dog and maybe a husband. And I was like, okay, wow, 15-year-old Kate, good job. Like you saw it.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at now. And so I just feel like it was New York
The husband,
was always
the dog,
everything.
all of it.
Yeah, it was like I'm going to live by a park.
Yes.
I live between two parks in Brooklyn. And yeah, it was like that vision of the thing. And so New York, I think, was always that dream. And I'm so grateful to have both Michigan and New York as a part of my identities because I feel like they both fuel my creativity so much. But New York City, people are always like, I'm shocked you don't live in like a cottage in the woods. You're a witch. Like, I don't know if you get this too, but I'm like, oh, there's a witch in every corner bar in New York City.
That's right. That is so right. I think there are witches in every city. I mean, we're everywhere.
Yes, watch out.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. You invoked the name Robin Rose Bennett.
Yes.
She's someone who's so important to both of us. She has also been on the Witch Wave. This is my mentor, the Green Witch, Robin Rose Bennett. And you studied with her as well. Tell me how you came to meet Robin.
Yeah, so I met Robin for the first time when you were doing an event with her at the Alchemist Kitchen in the basement there. And you two had gathered these mugwort wands. Which was
she gathered the wands.
Okay.
Let's be clear. Robin is often showing up with like an abundance of plants wherever she goes. Yes, that was all Robin.
So magical. You handed out the wands to us. And
I did help her hand out the wands. I'll take credit for that.
I think we called a circle. Maybe that was my first time ever experiencing that. And I went home and I took this mugwort and I put it under my bed. And that night I had a dream about Artemisia vulgaris just like bursting up through the sidewalks everywhere. And I was like, I'm going to study plants. I want to work with plants. Like I want to work with Robin when the time is right. And so years and years went by. And then in 2020, I had reconnected with her through some event work. And I was like, I want to do the apprenticeship. And she was like, let's do it. So I did the 3-year apprenticeship that you did at her home. And I work in our clinical practice now, which is a lot of fun. So
how wonderful.
I'm in the second year of that. And so learning so much. And
I love that so much. And one of the things that really comes through in Word Witch is your deep love of nature. It's interesting because even though I grew up in suburban New Jersey. I had little woods in my backyard, and I definitely played in the woods, but I didn't identify as like a hardcore like nature girl. I loved Artemis and had a deep relationship with her, as I still do. But I was definitely like, I couldn't wait to move to New York City. And I remember meeting with Robin and encountering her and realizing for the first time in my 20s, like, wait a second, New York City also has nature in it.
Yes.
And I am nature, and nature is everywhere. Like, you don't have to move to the woods.
No.
And it sounds like you're able to engage with nature in this urban environment as well, very, very deeply. And I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's wild here. There's people are so upset about the rats, but I'm like, there's something so storybook about them, you know? Like they're like, I'm like, this is not so bad. Actually, when I was unboxing Word Witch in the park, in McGorlick Park, a hawk landed in front of my husband and I, and we were like, wow. Hello, and so I mean, nature's all. No, you don't need the woods; you just need one tree, you know. Yes. And there's trees all over the city, and it's beautiful.
Oh, so speaking of birds, you write so beautifully about birds in Word Witch.
Thank you.
And we should say, this book is organized like a magic circle. You really call in the elements. And you have a lot of chapters that are associated with different elements and so on. And I want to dive a little deeper in how you chose to organize the book. But I believe birds show up in the air section. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so what is it about your relationship to the element of air and to birds in particular that you think helps make that connection between your word self and your witch self stronger?
Yeah. Well, so the air chapter kind of is invoking new beginnings and inspiration and the breath and how breath fills our writing and our bodies and sort of is this like galvanizing force. And I see birds as such an embodiment of that. And in the last few years, I've just had a couple of really intense poetic experiences with both starlings and turkey vultures, and both having to do with kind of the death of my last living grandparents, which on both sides happened within a week of each other. And so I was spending all this time in Michigan and just looking at how turkey vultures are this like divine alchemist and an oracle and a messenger, and I was learning so much from them, and I was like, they want to be in the book, and they want to be a part of this like sky poetry, like their feathers, the way that they paint the sky, it's like brushstrokes in the sky, and sort of like in organizing a poem, like if you've seen the murmuration of starlings, like they do make sort of these poems in the sky. And I was like, we learned so much from that about togetherness, about creativity. And so they were really longing to be in the book. So I was honored to have them.
So beautiful. Okay, I got ahead of myself. I get overexcited sometimes. Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the book. What made you decide that Word Witch is the title of the book and also the essential like thesis statement of the book? How did this book come to be?
That's a good question. I think I had the title before I knew how I was going to do it, because I was like, okay, I want everyone to feel connected to their creativity. I want everyone to know they're a writer. I want everyone to feel connected to their magic. I think magic and creativity are both inherent to us as human beings. It's our birthright. And so the book then was sort of created around this idea, and you brought in the elements. And so working with the elements, calling the circle, made real the altar of the book, while also helping guide people make their own altars on the page and in their lives, and to kind of make real in a multiplicity of ways both of those ideas.
Yes, yes. I love how you write about altars in the book. And essentially the structure of the book is first you kind of set the stage for us. You have us really engage with the notion of altars. You said a phrase that I wrote down, which is the page as an altar, which is such a beautiful concept. This idea of this space or this vessel that we then fill with magic, right? Is that how you were conceiving of it too?
Yeah, definitely. I think that so many people look at a empty page, and this has been, myself too, is that it can be this sort of scary or intimidating thing. But if we look at it as this place of altar making, of offering, of sort of communing with the divine or that mystery or that magic, then I feel like it takes away some of that pressure to show up and be right. Like that Leonard Cohen line, like there's no perfect offering,
Yes.
And so that is definitely essential to the book for me.
Yeah. And so you have us, as the reader, you have us engaging with this notion of altars. Both the page, as we mentioned, but also like literally building an altar. And I know in my practice, learning to build altars consciously, because the point you make in the book is that people build altars all the time without even realizing it. But consciously building magical altars is probably the most like recommended tip I give people when they're asking, like, how do I start to be a witch? How do I engage with magic? How have altars and altar making helped you as a witch and a word witch?
Yeah, I think that they make real the magic, and that intentionality that you brought in is so important, I think, to the whole thing. It's like people on their desks have photos, and they have, different knickknacks or tchotchkes, and it's like this whole, like they're doing it without even realizing it. And so I'm like, look at that magic. Like you're already a magic maker, a writer. And so it was more of like a guidance to be like, look at how we can make these things real in the world and how you're already doing it.
Yes.
It's not, and they can be built out of things that we already have or found in nature, and sort of making it accessible to people.
Mm-hmm. And why do you think that helps writing in particular, building an altar?
I think that it creates a sort of like shift in energy or in space, like bringing in that intention. It's like I'm sitting down. When I feel like my world is romanced or more magical in any ways, I'm always having more fun writing. Like
romance,
get the flowers,
please, give it to me. Yes.
Make your space like the thing that you want to be in, so that you can sit down and like do the thing.
So do you literally have a writing altar for yourself, or do you have several? Like, if you don't mind me being a little nosy, what does your physical space look like as a writer and a witch?
Yeah, I have my great-grandmother's desk, which I've just brought back from Michigan, which is so really wonderful. My car looked so funny driving back. I'm just like down the I-80 for 10 hours with this desk. But so it's kind of, it's wonderful to write on that because I feel connected to my ancestors through that, through Ella. And then there's a desk altar that I can kind of see when I'm working. So different items that kind of invoke different things. There's a silver deer and an antler from my grandfather's land. There's my grandma's ashtray that she used to smoke out of. There's, a dish of water, all these kind of different things. And then behind me, I keep an ancestor altar. So I kind of feel like they're at my back. And I have this big doily that my husband helped me frame with cedar as a part of the apprenticeship with Robin. But so it was made by a great aunt in Poland, and my grandma mailed it to me before she passed. And she was like, I think this thing is so ugly, but you have to have it. And so she would be probably mortified to know it's hanging up in my office. But
it sounds cool. What does it look like? Is it like spider webby or? Yeah,
it's like this big circle. Sort of geometric in a sense. And
that's so powerful. What an incredible, like, ancestral bit of talismanic magic.
Yeah, and like the weaving, the stitching, it feels so like writing to me.
Say more about that.
There's what's the word spinster, I think, comes from the spinners, and I think I write about this in the book, but there's sort of like, what do we say, we weave a tale or we tell a yarn or any of this. And so there's such a kinship, and the storytelling that happens over this weaving between women or creatives or storytellers, it's I think it's especially potent. And so it kind of invokes that thing for me, like weave the story, tell the yarn, tell the tale.
So beautiful. And I also love the like spidery, witchy sort of connotations too.
Yeah, spiders are such a good, I think, symbol or oracle for creativity, or they can be.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Okay, so you start us off in the book talking about altars and foundations, which I found really, really powerful, because it's not only about this kind of tablescape or shelfscape or what have you. It's also about physically like what that material is made out of, right? And why did you want to specify between altars and foundations, and how do you see the difference between those two?
Yeah, I think that a foundation, it gives us like a good place to like land. And I think some people are like, where do I start, like myself included? So having a relationship with like that meeting point, it also feels very witchy to me, like the liminal, where things meet. And so I was like, okay, consider the materials, consider where we're doing this. Like, is it on the roots of a tree? Is it on the desk? Is it on a mantle? Does it have to be secret? You can put it in a shoebox, like any of these things can be a foundation. And then in our practices too, I wanted to have people make some commitments to themselves. I wanted people to claim things so that when we were going off into this like writing ritual adventure, people kind of knew a place they could return to. So like I really wanted people in the book to claim the words writer and witch for themselves if they resonated with them, or any other word. But I think that there's something so powerful about that claim. And I think that there's, very few things we can kind of claim for ourselves, but naming ourselves is one of those things. And so, Yeah, I had a poet in third grade,
I
Conrad
was going to ask
Hilberry.
you about
Yeah.
this. I'm so glad you're about to tell this story because it touched me so much. Please go ahead.
He came to our third grade class.
What was his
and
name?
Conrad Hilberry.
Yes.
Beautiful book, The Fingernail of Luck, for anyone that wants to dive in. But he took all of our journals, and I actually just refound my journal with this in there, but he wrote our names and then signed his and was like, is a poet. So it was like, our names is a poet signed by Conrad Hilberry. And I, at the time, felt so empowered by that. And in third grade, I'm like, I'm a writer. Like,
Yes.
he says it. He's a writer. And then now looking back on it, I'm like, oh, he knew how important that claiming of self was. And he was trying to give that to us, I think. And so that's my interpretation of it. And I wanted to pass that on through the book, like claim it for yourself.
Yes, I think that is so true, certainly of words like writer or artist, and certainly of a word like witch.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, I think, are looking for that permission slip from someone else. There are a lot of people that I interview on this show or just talk to in my life who feel witchy, but daren't call themselves a witch. They feel like, I don't know, they haven't earned it. They haven't been initiated. They don't come from a lineage. And what I have told them is like, if you feel like you're a witch, then that word is yours, you know?
Yes.
As we often say, there's no pope of witchcraft. Like, yes, there are ways to deepen your practice and your identity, but if you're a witch, you know it. Do you think that's true of being a writer or a poet as well?
I do, yeah. And I think that those three words are really in kinship with each other there.
Say more about that. I love that. And I agree.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, when I talk to people about being writers similarly to being a witch, they'll be like, oh, well, when I was young, I was a writer. And there's this sort of like past tense or this like unwillingness or the shyness or unable to like step into that and be like, because they're afraid that it means something that they should have already like felt initiated into or something like this. But it's like, do you write? You're a writer. Like, and that can be any kind of writing. If it feels right to you, then it's yours and we share it, you know?
Mm-hmm. This book, as we said, it's organized also by elements. And maybe if you could highlight a couple of the elements to show people or illustrate to people how you associate each element with a different kind of energy or a method of writing, that would be useful for them.
Yeah, we start in the east with the air, and that for me is breath and inspiration and beginnings and birds. We move into the south for fire, and that is inspiration, it's play, it's automatic writing, it's Baba Yaga's house.
Yes.
Then we go to the west. Water is working with our cycles of creativity. It's listening to the moon. It's listening to the seasons. It's forging a connection with that cyclicality that's so innate to us as humans and creatives. And then in the north, we have earth, and that's poems and songs and witnessing and walks and stones and the trees. And then we go to spirit, which is sort of like the below, the above, and the center. And that's thresholds and dreams and ancestors, both ancestors in the familial sense and then the larger sense of like creative ancestors. And then we open our circle, and there's a few like seasonal prompts and annexes and stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. See, and I wasn't even going to test you and make you go through the whole book, but you did, and I'm so glad you did. And I want people to get the sense of the fact that not only do you write about all of these different concepts so beautifully and lyrically and magically, you also give a lot of exercises, you give a lot of prompts, you give these things called, I think you call them poetry vessels. Am I right about that? Which almost remind me of, and I don't mean this in a trivializing way, but it's almost like reverse magical Mad Libs.
Yes.
Like you'll give fragments of beginnings of maybe lines and then kind of prompt people to finish the poem, if you will. Am I explaining that well?
100%. Yes. And I love that, magical Mad Libs. Yeah, because I feel, well, I was teaching a writing class online, and giving like a classic poetry prompt. And I had a friend in the class who would not call herself a poet, had not spent any time writing. And she messaged me on the side and was like, hey, I love you, but I don't. Where do I even start with this? Like, this is not like, she's like, I'm looking at the page. You've given this beautiful prompt, these words, and I still have no idea where to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's like a really real problem. So like reverse engineering it, like how do we invite people into poetry if they feel that they don't know where to start? So it's like, here's a word, like let's meet on the page in the middle. Like you can finish the sentence, like see how that line feels when you breathe your own words into it. And so through that sort of creative collaboration, people can kind of fill the vessels up and then hopefully go off on their own to write their own poems once they know what that impulse feels like and once they know how to like meet like the ritual of poem making.
I also think it's useful for people who are writers or do consider themselves writers already. It's just a fun exercise to take the beginnings or little kernels or seeds of something and then see what you can add to it and how it can flourish in your own style. I just think it's really cool. Yeah, exactly.
Creative play.
Exactly. So you brought up poetry. You studied poetry. You have an MFA from Sarah Lawrence. I love poetry as well. And to be clear, Word Witch is for anybody who wants to write anything in any style. But you definitely give poetry a lot of extra love. And
preferential treatment.
I was hoping I could get you to read a little section from the poetry part in the book. Here you go. I marked that for you.
Thanks.
Yes. And just my intention with this is just to talk about poetry as a magic spell, if you will, because I know that's something that's really close to your heart.
Yeah. Poems are doorways, pathways. Asking if they are good is like asking if a tree is good or if the soil is good. They are all different, generative, and alive. I am affirming through these pages right now that if you want to call a piece of writing a poem, and it felt empowering, creative, freeing, and human to create it, then yes. It was important that you wrote it, whether or not others might consider it to be good or bad. Write the poems. They will be your own, crafted from a lifetime of witchery, enchantment, and the wisdom the earth has imparted. Write them because they come to you, dreams, visions, visitors, waiting to be written. The Word Witch is a poet.
So Thanks. Beautiful. I love that so much. So you started this conversation talking about dictating poems to your mom, which is so tenderhearted. I love that so much. Your mom sounds awesome.
Thank you, Mom.
But when did you start really cultivating your poetic practice?
Yeah, I think, I was always the kid that was getting sent to the different, like, older classroom for, like, reading and writing. And so I was like, this is my thing.
Yes.
And so the books and the poems were sort of together. And that was sort of like how I made sense of the world into teenage years, which were difficult and complicated and weird. Like, I always had poems. When I got to Kalamazoo College, which is where I did my undergraduate, I was really trying to figure out what I wanted to, like, quote unquote, do with my life. And people kept asking me, and I was like, I feel like I should know. And I remember going into the office of Diane Seuss, who is an incredible poet, and she was my academic advisor there, and being like, I don't know, maybe I'll be a lawyer or something. And she's got fish bones hanging in her office, and she's drinking coffee out of a jalapeno jar. And she's like, girl, I think you're a poet. And I was like, well, can't argue with this. You know, like.
Yeah. If someone has fish bones hanging from their wall, you should listen to them.
100%. And so I studied with her through my time there. I ended up doing the New York Arts program. So I came here. I worked at Poet's House for a semester. And
I love it there.
So special.
Was this when it was still on Spring Street?
No, it was in the Battery then.
Okay.
What street is that?
Okay.
Off the Chambers.
Okay.
stop.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But I got to work at the front desk, and then I got to go with Dave Johnson, and he was a teaching artist in schools, and so I would be his assistant, and it was just like a whole world opened for me for poetry. And then when I moved here, I Googled weird poetry, and I can't.
Wait. You Googled weird poetry.
I was like, I need to find like the weirdos that are writing stuff. Like, I want to be one of them.
Yeah.
And so I found the Poetry Society of New York, who I love.
Are they weird?
So weird in the best way. So I started performing with the Poetry Brothel.
Oh, incredible.
Which was really fun. And so that's my poetry family here. And so they've really just been so much magic.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so why do you think poetry is a very magical art form? Because it's clear that you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly a sentiment I share with you. But how did you come to that conclusion?
Well, it's like, where did the poems come from, you know? It's like, it feels so magical to like sit down with the empty page and make something out of nothing but these sort of like dreams and visions. Like in the book, they feel like visitors to me. Is that how they feel like to you? Like,
yes.
The sort of like being to be like, oh, like now it's channeled through me.
Yeah. It also feels like there's something concentrated about a poem. Like even though poems can be very light, there's like a density of energy there, because usually, not always, they can be any length, but usually they're shorter. And so you're packing in this really dense amount of like potency and presence and concentrated magic.
Matters.
Yes, every word matters.
Like on an altar, it's like, it is very altar. Like, it's the intention behind every single word, everything on the altar, that altar on the page. It's make it all count.
Yes. In this section, and I don't want to step on your toes and talk too much about my own book, but there is like a cousin feeling
a kinship
between
to
our books.
Yes.
And, you know, I think we were writing them at the same time. So there's something in the ether that like wants to express itself.
Yes.
And I was really touched by that, especially in the poetry section, because we both write about Lucille Clifton. We both mentioned Sylvia Plath, you know, many, many other poets who were also channels, or in Sylvia's case, were at least playing with Ouija and so on. Who are some of the other poets that you think of as real word witches that you really, really love?
Who do I think?
Alice Notley you bring up in the book.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing. Emily Dickinson has just always been so important to me. I don't know that she would have called herself witch but there's something very, like, especially her envelope poems feel so magical to me.
Kate, okay. I'm going to bring some controversy to the witch wave. Dude, I can't stand Emily Dickinson's writing. I fucking hate it. I know. This is how I get canceled in my world, right? Just like proclaiming my
That's fair.
But it's so weird. I don't know why. I have just never it's just never resonated with me. I don't know why. And I've tried, and there are certain lines I think are beautiful, and she has a couple super witchy poems, and I'm like, surely these are going to be my gateway drug to Emily Dickinson. I don't know why. What am I missing, Kate? Tell me about Emily Dickinson's magic, please.
I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I feel like maybe she was just like the first poet that I read. And so like my dad had this book. It was like Emily Dickinson for young people or something to that effect. And so we would open it and like we would read the poem, and he'd be like, what words do you not know in this? And so I'd be like, okay, I don't know what, I was like 8. So I'd be like, I don't know what supercilious means. So we'd like go get the dictionary, we'd pull it out, we'd look up the word, we'd read it, we'd talk about it. And then we'd talk about what was speaking to us in the poem. And so it was sort of like this maybe first poetry experience where I was like, oh. And the first poem I ever memorized was her I'm Nobody, Who Are You poem.
Yeah.
And there's something so witchy about, because she talks about communing with like a bog and a frog and being nobody. And I just like fell in love with this poem, but she can't be for everyone.
But I feel like I'm broken. Like something about my brain, because everybody I know just loves her work. And when you talk about her work, I'm just like, you call her M- a magic wand in this book. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. Maybe now I'll love Emily Dickinson. Anyway, Emily Dickinson, blessed be. We honor you. This is my shortcomings. I'm sure it is. And obviously she was an outsider and living I hear that she wasn't as isolated as sometimes people say she was, but she was still like relatively introverted, to say the least. Quite possibly, probably, maybe definitely queer, right?
Yeah.
I don't follow her too closely, but I think I picked up on that along the way. So she has all these like super witchy vibes. I get it.
Yeah. What about Lorca? Do you like Lorca?
I love Lorca. And we both write about, please
the
talk.
Duende.
Yes, we both write about that in our book too. It's amazing how these things just like want to come through. Yeah. So please talk about Lorca and Duende, because this is one of my favorite subject matters too. Please, please, please.
Yeah, so the Duende, for those that don't know, the Duende is a spirit in folklore, as sort of like a goblin or a creature. But then Federico Garcia Lorca kind of takes this folklore idea and gives in the theory and play of Duende a lecture, this sort of idea that we have our angels and our muses, and then there's the Duende.
Yes.
And all that has dark sounds has Duende, and it sort of surges up inspiration through the soles of the feet. And it's this like earthy and feral capacity for like death and suffering in making, and it's like so stunning.
Yes. It's like this kind of gothy, romantic, dark spirit, and it feels very like chthonic and earthy and, I don't know, fungal.
Yes. Mycelial. Yeah.
Yeah,
the Duende comes to you and you can't avoid it.
Yeah, that's right. And I've said this before, and I think I write about it in Magic Maker, that when there's something that's really popular, if it doesn't have Duende, I probably won't like it. And I'm not going to name names, but let's just say there are some pop artists who are very popular right now, and people think they're like amazing lyrical geniuses, and I'm like, there's no Duende there. Like, it's just not for me. Let's talk about creative ancestors. It's one of my favorite topics. We've already invoked some of these poets. Who are some of your creative ancestors, and why do you think it's important that people commune with their creative ancestors?
Yeah, I was so excited when we talked about this on Magic and Alchemy, but yeah, I think
that's your wonderful podcast. Yes, shout out.
But the creative ancestors, so I guess who are some of mine? Well, Emily, Lorca, like, who else do I just love? Of course, whenever I think
Monica
about it.
Furlong, we both love.
Yes.
Shout out to Wise Child. I was so thrilled to see her name in your book, because people don't know enough about Monica Furlong.
Yes.
Wise Child is one of the most incredible young adult or young reader books about witches and magic and nature ever.
Go read it if you haven't, please.
The whole series is beautiful, but especially the first book, Wise Child.
Yeah. Yeah, my cousin's other grandmother, which is like such a funny like thing, had a bookstore, and she gave me the copy of it, and I was like, "Well, Grandma Jan, who's not my grandma but is Sarah's grandma, is giving me this book. I like need to read it."
Yes.
So, such a special book.
But what about this character who comes up in the book a few times, Carla? Is she still with us?
Carla is still with us.
Okay, so she's not quite an ancestor yet. Carla, we hope you live a long time. We're not trying to rush your ancestorship.
Yes. Yeah. Carla was my grandma when she was alive, was a good friend. And so she would come visit and would bring the tarot cards and the stories and the strange pieces of pottery.
She was your magical pusher.
Yeah,
we all have them. We all have the person who's like sliding the tarot cards across the table.
Like, what about this?
Yeah. Oh, what about this candle? What about this weird little book? Yeah.
There's a lock of hair in a jar. Like, what do you think it means? Like, everything was a mystery. It was so fun, you know, like.
Carla, you rule. Yeah.
It's all these people, too, that owned bookstores. Like, she had a bookstore. So it's just like.
Yes. So in terms of ancestors, so Carla's still with us, but you named a few others.
Yeah. Well, my grandma was a painter, so I never met her. So Grandma Joyce. But I feel her in my creative practice. Lorca, Emily, Diane DePrima.
Oh, yeah. Same.
I loved the quote that you pulled in the Magic Maker about the only war is the war on imagination. I was like, yes, like amazing.
Yes. And how do you think these creative ancestors assist you in your word witchery?
I think that they remind me that we make and write in a long lineage and in a long line of makers. It makes me feel less alone. It makes me feel like there's that James Baldwin quote where he talks about you think that you're alone in an experience until you read a book, and then you realize that you're just part of like an incredible humanity. And so I think that reading the work of poets, feeling connected to them in a creative ancestorship sort of makes me feel like, okay, like my poems that I'm offering, my writing that I'm offering, it's hopefully just like a little sliver, little moon sliver in the vast, Milky Way of creativity. And so I long to be a part of that. I long to be connected to that. And I think that just knowing that they're there is like a source of great support and magic.
Absolutely. Speaking of other collaborators that are, I was going to say non-human, but I suppose the ancestors that we just mentioned, of course, they were human, but now they're non-human. They're in the immaterial realm.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about collaborating with nature as a word witch. You write about it so beautifully in the book, and I think a lot of people think of nature as something like, yes, you can paint a landscape, or you can go like Mary Oliver style and just write beautiful nature poems. But I feel like you were talking about something even deeper. How do you engage with nature from like an oracular standpoint?
Well, Mary Oliver, wonderful creative ancestor to weave into. But from an oracular standpoint, I mean, I personally have never gone on a walk and not felt inspired. I think that there's something, and as you said earlier, we are nature. So I think when we're sort of working with that idea of the wild, it can really help guide us. It's like the hawk landing in the park, the rat scurrying past you in the subway, like the trees, they all have messages, and I think that they can encourage us to slow down, to listen. I see so many people looking at their phones on the sidewalk, and I'm like, did you check out that cherry tree? Like, hello?
Yeah.
And so, and that's all we need for writing. Like, we don't need anything else except for our witnessing and our attention, which is like such a great gift and ritual to make the thing.
Yeah. So how do you recommend that people work with the book? Like, do you want them to go step by step? Because they very much could. There is an order to this book. What do you envision and what do you recommend?
Yeah, I would invite going in order. I would invite people to maybe, give themselves time and space with each chapter. Like, I might spend a week on each, or I might look at it and be like, okay, so like the new moon is happening here and the full moon is here. Like, how do I spend my time with each of these energies? Or, even working over the course of a year, or whatever your sort of inner seasons are. And some people like a more condensed approach, and some people like a more spacious approach. And so I really wanted to honor all of that in the circle.
But you do see it as like there's a beginning and there's an end. So there is like a cycle for people to complete. There's a magic circle for you to cast and sort of walk the path of, right? And you recommend people are writing along with the book, right?
Yeah. Write in the book, write in your journal. I talk a little bit about finding a journal that speaks to you, a word witch journal. For me, that's like the extra large black moleskin soft cover with no lines in it.
No lines. Thank you. No dots, no grids. What are we doing?
I'm glad you're no line club.
Absolutely no lines. I don't understand it.
No, because you got to like have the crazy handwriting and the notes and
I think so too.
For me,
I think so too. For me too. Anyway, no judgment if you like.
If you need the lines,
although
it's
if you're a dotted grid person,
I don't know any of those.
No, I'm kidding. You're wonderful and you're perfect just as you are. So you recommend people write along with the book. And what are your hopes and intentions for the book? What do you hope people will get out of it?
I hope that by the end, people will feel that they have a creative and a magical practice in their life that feels really like them, really authentic to them, that allows them to write the thing, that allows them to make the thing to feel as magical as I know that they already are. And I hope that they're writing poems and books and stories and sharing them. And I just want people to know that they're already a word witch if you long to call yourself a word witch.
I love that so much. Now, you are a word witch, and you and I can also relate to the idea of writing a book about creativity and also putting into practice the techniques that you're talking about to generate the book. It's this weird, like, super meta, like, double consciousness.
Yeah.
What techniques helped you to write this book? What was your experience like writing it? Did you find yourself leaning on some of your own recommendations? Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I made an altar for it. So I was like,
Perfect. Love a book altar.
and I feel like making the altar while working with the idea of it, it was like, okay, like this is real. This makes it real in the world. And so I could kind of get out of my head a little bit. And it's like, I was also like, okay, Kate, like what do we actually do? So like I had to think about, like, is that how you felt too? I'm like, actually, how am I making these things? And like, what has worked in my classes and workshops? And like, what is the helpful thing? Like, and sometimes as an Aquarius, my brain will like skip like 16 steps.
Aquarius, yes.
Yay.
See, Kate, I feel like we are cousins.
We are. Witch cousins. What day are you?
Yes, I'm Valentine's Day.
Oh, January 29th.
Oh, so you're an early Aquarius. Very nice.
But yeah, I don't know if you feel like this, but sometimes my brain has skipped 16 steps ahead and I'm like, wait, step one.
Yes.
Like, where are we? And so I think that like the foundation chapter really gave me my own foundation to write the rest of the book, because I was like, okay, we just got to go back to this. We have the elements, we have the things, like how are we building that altar on the page, and how are we creating like that lantern and that guide through that spiral?
I'm so happy you brought up the word lantern because we just have a few more minutes left. But you bring up this phrase in the book that I think is so beautiful, which is the phrase soul lantern. And you bring it up in the context of this beautiful quote, and I'm always nervous to pronounce her name because I always feel like I'm getting it wrong. But it's Clarissa Pinkola Estes or Estes. She wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves, which I imagine a lot of listeners and viewers are familiar with. But she's written a lot of other books and essays. And there's this beautiful essay that you quote from that she writes called "We Were Made for These Times." And actually, maybe I'll have you read her quote from her essay right there.
The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, build signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. To display the lantern of soul in shadowy times like these, to be fierce and to show mercy toward others, both are acts of immense bravery and greatest necessity.
Love it. And she's essentially talking about the fact that in difficult times, in tumultuous times, in dark times, we can call upon our inner light, our inner fire, our inner word witchery to benefit the world and to help each other. And that, she literally calls this essay, "We Were Made for These Times." And she's like, take heart. Like, yes, things are dark, but we are ready for it. And you go on to write about this concept of the soul lantern. And I would love for you to talk about that phrase and why you think as writers and witches, we can share our soul lanterns with each other and how that can help, hopefully, each other in this dark, dark time.
Yeah. I'm someone who's painfully shy, and so I feel that the idea of soul lantern has been something that's been really helpful for me in my life, because it's like I would rather do it scared than not do it.
Yes.
And so I also feel like I know that in order to find my people, to find others that are making and writing and are witches and magical, I have to be brave enough to kind of step into that place and claim that for myself or share that part of myself. And so that's kind of been like my guiding tenet of it's like, okay, like if I like, yes, like the quote unquote, like, who am I to do this? It's like, who am I not to do this? Like because of my ancestors, my creative ancestors, my community, it's like I have the responsibility to share this part of myself with the hope that it gives someone else the permission to share those parts of themselves. And so if we all are sort of passing that torch to each other, like we look around, it's a lit up room.
Yes. Yes. I just got the chills. And especially now when I think I know that there are people in power who want us to be silent and they want us to dim our light and they want us to stop writing and they want us to stop sharing our art. They wouldn't be banning books and they wouldn't be taking certain paintings out of the Smithsonian and shutting down drag shows and all these things if those things didn't matter, right? And so in our final moments together, how can being a word witch help people and help the world in this dark time?
Being a writer, being a witch, being a word witch, they tell the truth. And so our stories matter. Our stories are important. Feeling connected to magic, to our creativity, the ritual of being alive matters. So showing up to that altar that is our lives, if we all do that together, if we all claim those things for ourselves, if we all tell our truth, then hopefully we can make the world a better place. And that's everything.
That is everything. Kate, I know people are going to want to learn more from you. In addition to studying and working with your beautiful book, Word Witch, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at K8Belew.
That's K, the letter 8,
Yes.
Belew.
And my website, katebelew.com, and then I'm on Substack under Word Witch. So come write with me.
Yes, and also shout out once again to your beautiful podcast and your co-host's name again.
Kristen Lisenby.
Kristen
Listen
Lisenby.
to Pam's episode.
Oh, yes, my episode's coming out
Can't
down
wait.
the road. And the podcast is called Magic and Alchemy, and it's so, so beautiful. Kate, thank you so much for being on the Witch Wave.
Thank you so much for having me.